And now back to your regular programming.
If you speak better to yourself.
You showed up for probably the dumbest conversation we've ever had on this show.
Let's have that smile again.
Tell me how that happens. Physically should not happen.
Relax.
If you say
Give me as well.
3 times a day, God will line it up.
He's just an absolute hack, and he gets his ass kicked by the teammates every week. It's just terrible.
Sean, Saquon Barkley had the performance of a lifetime. 255 rushing yards, 47 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns, the 9th most rushing yards in an NFL game in the history of the sport. He might have pushed himself into the clear favorite conversation for the MVP race over Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, Jared Goff. It's a year where we're seeing career resurgences for a number of players that we weren't truly expecting. A 37-20 win. I think the biggest thing for me, it's one of those things where you just kept looking over and it's like, holy crap, Saquon's breaking away for another one. Are you in on him winning the MVP?
You know, I think it's still Josh Allen's to lose, and that's how it's gonna be. QB is gonna have to lose it, but I would be super comfortable listening to arguments for Saquon Barkley getting MVP consideration, especially since he got off that garbage team and finally he's eating lobster with a monster now. He's not sitting in the Meadowlands just waiting for Daniel Jones to do something for him. Oh, was that nice to see? And I hate Philly, but geez, he is so much fun. 255 Sunday night, give it to me against a good Rams team. Yeah, I could hear him in the MVP race for the next couple of weeks. I think it's a big enough performance to see that.
I actually, frankly, don't even care if he wins the MVP. But I have to bring this up though that you just alluded to. It was discussed. I was listening to WFAN on Friday, and a lot of the show's talking points and just general feel was very somber with the whole Daniel Jones thing. And Daniel Jones, him being released, can't be brought up without talking about the implications of what happened with Saquon, where the decision was to pay Daniel Jones and then figure it out with Saquon after that, which led to him leaving to go play for the Eagles. I can't help but feel just so continually frustrated and at the same time just numb. That was what that WFAN feeling was with everybody who was calling in, with all the hosts. It's just so numb that right now we're moving on from the guy who didn't do shit for us, who shouldn't have gotten paid when he was. I'm sorry that it didn't work out, Daniel. Best of luck in the future. I'm sure that you're going to go win an MVP somewhere. But this is insane to me that I'm trying to watch this Sunday night game and I'm just sick to my stomach watching a player that could have been a premier name in the lore of New York sports and now is just going to be a black mark on the history of a team that could have been and continually underperforms and sucks ass on a year-to-year basis.
You see, that was a bit scathing. Still more courteous than L. Duncan's breakdown of Daniel Jones'
I'm not even going to give that any air.
I gotcha. I know it's probably not even worth mentioning at this point. It's a little bit dated too. But I'm starting to feel a little bad, and not like trying to get under your skin about this. They are such a punching bag this year, the New York Giants, and it just keeps on getting worse because Saquon Barkley has brought life back into the DOA Philadelphia Eagles. Do you remember what we were saying about them in Week 5? Do you remember how done we thought they were? I thought the window was closed. I thought they were making mistakes for paying Jalen Hurts. I thought they were making mistakes all over the place. And now they are rolling, and they might be, I don't know, the second best team in the NFC. That's going to be, it's tough to really compare them to Green Bay, who I know we're going to talk about a little bit later. But obviously behind the Lions, they're making some actual headway, catching steam and fire when they need to.
Well, and it's crazy that we're in this year in 2024, and we've talked about Derrick Henry's impact for the Ravens and how he's helped them take this next step forward because they were missing somebody to take attention away from Lamar Jackson as a runner. And now the same thing is happening for Jalen Hurts. There's less pressure on his shoulders. And at the same time, Saquon Barkley is not going up against just fat loaded boxes every single time he touches the football. A really interesting observation has been put out there this week in how some people thought in the future a couple years ago that there was going to be a resurgence of premier running backs on various rosters. And we're seeing that now. And the reason for it is that the NFL had this trend where they were trying to get lighter at linebacker. They were trying to get lighter at safety. They were trying to find multiplicitous guys that they could use in similar roles in the same sub packages, so they don't have to have too many changes. You don't have to keep bringing guys on off the field. You're just constantly in nickel or dime formations in order to be able to do more things and defend more of the field, more specifically against teams that are pass-centric. But now what we have is that these teams that have these powerful runners, Josh Jacobs comes into the mix, who had 3 touchdowns yesterday, that are able to run through these not light boxes, but quite literally lighter boxes, because the defenders are smaller than what we're used to seeing. This isn't the 90s or early 2000s where we've got these behemoth middle linebackers who are going to come downhill and smoke you. I wonder if now, and because the NFL is constantly chasing its own tail, I want to see some big MFing linebackers back. Maybe we need to start transitioning these lighter defensive tackles into linebackers or something. Defensive ends. I don't know, because we need some real damn skull-breaking, head-hunting linebackers that we don't have, that can't tackle Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley.
I think you made a fantastic point. People were wondering, like, I remember what happened to DeLeone Jones in Atlanta, because he was a great linebacker for 2 or 3 years. Super fast, could cover, could tackle.
And he wasn't really that big. Same thing with Devin White, another guy, not very big.
But you lose a step, and then the lineman can catch up to you, and then you're caught in the wash every single time covering the run. And that is something that a lot of teams is like, oh, here's this flashy sports car. What happens when it gets a little dusty? And then it's big, costly repairs. It doesn't look as good. And you got people that are driving past you on the highway, you're broken down. They're in a 20-year-old Toyota just chilling, cruising. Obviously, it's a little bit different for NFL players, but it's a good point of note. I appreciate that Philly is winning. Well, easy. Mostly because I don't have to hear Jalen Hurts Instagram motivational quotes after they lose in the press conferences. I'll say this.
He's the Jason Tatum of the NFL, by the way.
Philly fans, I know you're a Philly fan. These aren't big enough wins to post on your story. All right. I wasn't posting to my Instagram story a Falcons graphic after we beat the Cowboys. Okay.
Is that directed at a certain former teammate of ours?
Oh, who?
Certain multiple former teammates?
It's every Philly fan. Every person on Instagram lets you know that they're an Eagles fan, no matter how big of a win against an awful team.
You brought up the Giants' embarrassment. I want to get to this now instead of revisiting it later. They lost 30-7 to the Buccaneers. And if you're wondering, oh yeah, they just got rid of their starting quarterback, Tommy DeVito was starting, is it really that embarrassing? Yeah, the Bucs gave up 125 points over the last 4 games, and you managed to muster a measly 7 in this game, which is nauseating and disgusting. It was the exact type of performance to bounce back, or not bounce back, but to follow up all of the drama that happened on Thursday and Friday with Daniel Jones's release. So here we are. They are the front runner for the first overall pick. We've already talked about, like, hey, what do you do here? If they end up with a top 3 pick, they need to stay pat. They need to draft one of the 3 guys available. You need to hope that you're in that position to get Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. It seems like Shedeur Sanders really wants to be a New York Giant, because he keeps tweeting. I think he's saying, thank God is what he keeps tweeting.
Are the Giants now trying to spin that away from the Raiders?
Well, apparently he keeps doing that every single time the Giants have lost this year.
It was the Raiders initially.
Well,
but he beat them to the punch while the Raiders were playing yesterday.
So I think that it's the Giants. I think it's the Giants.
The Giants have lost a ton of games also, so it correlates.
I have thought previously that based on Deion Sanders' comment saying that he's going to control where Shedeur Sanders ends up, that would include keeping his son away from the Giants. But I would, if I'm selling to Coach Prime here, you get your son to play in one of the biggest media markets in the country. Just like when you were in Atlanta, he gets to be the most talked about player in the country on a week-to-week basis if he starts playing as good as advertised, and multiple Super Bowls. There's 4 Super Bowls that we can turn to, and 2 of which happened in the last 20 years. So there's not many teams that could say that. The Commanders ain't saying that. The Falcons ain't saying that, so I don't want to hear you say anything negative about the Giants right now.
Okay, don't worry.
The Raiders can't say that. The Jaguars, who might be picking early, can't say that. The Panthers, if they might be picking early, which we're going to talk about why they might not be drafting a quarterback in the near future. A lot of these shit teams can't say that they've got Super Bowls. Shador, come on, man. You could be a New York Giant.
Here's the problem, Joseph. I need you to answer this honestly.
Okay.
Is Shador Sanders good enough? Is he better than the boat photo? Is he a good enough quarterback to reverse that? Because you've been so awful.
I think
you've been so awful. And it's that picture. Unfortunately, you're going to have to get past that. Is he the guy that's going to elevate that entire franchise past the boat picture?
I think so.
Whoa,
I think he can.
Oh, that he's 1-1, baby. He's got to be the best quarterback you've seen in the last 5 years. Goodness gracious. Yeah, the Giants are terrible. The Bucs are going to make the playoffs in the NFC South. Hate to break it to you. There's a team that's leading that division right now that's going to choke it up. But it's fine. Baker's great. Here's the bummer about the Giants is Malik Neighbors was like so graceful and humble in his first loss as a Giant. And now we are like,
now he's bitching and moaning.
3 quarters through the season, and it's already killed him. You can see the light and the spirit and the love for football has already left his eyes.
Apparently, there has been some reconciliation between him and Brian Daboll, but like I don't know what to believe. I have no idea what to believe. I'm hoping that situation is already not rapidly souring, and this just doesn't. It's not going to turn into Kadarius Toney, but it felt like Kadarius Toney hated being a New York Giant the second that he stepped foot into the building, and then it just tumbled and tumbled.
How is that possible? He got his number tattooed on his back as soon as he walked in. 19 right there.
Well, but
89,
considering some of the DM screenshots that have been out there from Kadarius Toney to Giants fans,
I'm not saying he's been the most rational or reasonable fellow. I'm just saying that, what was he there for? A year and a half? Did he last 2 years?
I'm
not even sure he lasted 2 years.
From my memory, Kadarius Toney is a New York Giant.
Neighbors is obviously of a different class of receiver, talent-wise. It just stinks that you guys are blowing it so early with that guy.
We had a lot of games with late game heroics. It was a very exciting weekend for just utter craziness. The first one being briefly, Caleb Williams had a very impressive performance in the Bears' overtime loss to the Minnesota Vikings. 30-27 was the final score. John Parker Romo drilled a 31-yard field goal to secure the Vikings' 4th win in a row in overtime. This is the Bears' 5th straight loss, and they are really, truly stumbling and falling down to the depths of where they could possibly have hit. 32-47, 340 yards, 2 touchdowns for Caleb Williams as he started to look pretty good against one of the better, if not one of the best defenses in the NFL. I think that is the nail in the coffin for Eberflus. I don't know when he's going to be fired, but that feels like we're donezo here. There is no reviving that situation that understandably against one of the best teams in the league at the current moment, but the fact that you couldn't finish out in overtime with your quarterback playing his best game, that is truly, truly concerning. And I think it's time to turn in the other direction, find an offensive-minded head coach. Here we go back and forth from Nagy to Eberflus to now whoever the heck it's going to be to take over and lead Caleb Williams.
Joe, this game meant a lot to me. Do you know why?
Why?
I had money on it, and I had money on it at BetOnline, which is the world's most trusted.
To in there.
Yeah, it's the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for online betting.
Cut me off next time, by the way.
From earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and ability to watch the games as they happen. I'm sure they're going to have some lines for the next possible head coach of the Chicago Bears. They got lines for everything: football, NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC, MMA. Head to BetOnline today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. Aside from my wager, I was thoroughly impressed with Caleb Williams in this game. I thought he took great strides against a good team, and everyone's lapping up the throw that he had on the sidelines. That
is an awful verb. I hate that. I hate that you used lapping up.
It was.
I hate that.
It was also noted that pass would have been a hospital ball to DeAndre Swift in 2010, as safeties were able to tackle then. But His throw on the game-tying drive at the end of regulation, 25 yards in the air, maybe 30 yards through the air, on a frozen rope to get the Bears in field goal range, was so impressive to me because it meant that he met the moment. Even though they lost, because they're the Bears and they stink, and they're the Bears and they're always going to stink, and they had opportunities in overtime, and they just let Minnesota get away with one. His composure, when he didn't have a ton of time on the clock, to just throw an absolute missile. I don't care about him off platform. I don't care about his improvisational skills. I care about him launching that thing right into a window where only his receiver can get it. And that told me all I need to know about why I haven't jumped ship about Caleb Williams. Have I been harsh on other young quarterbacks? Yes, I hold them to a standard. They're NFL quarterbacks. But Caleb Williams, I'm not jumping because I see it. I see it in the arm. I see it in the build. It was a big day for him. He got a lot of different receivers incorporated. I think he is taking strides, even though he's got a big dumb dummy trying to lead the team.
Well, let's find out how accountable you're going to hold Jayden Daniels as they lost to the Dallas Cowboys 34-26. One of the most ridiculous finishes that we're probably going to get all year long. 86-yard touchdown to Terry McLaurin with 21 seconds remaining. Seibert misses the extra point, and then Thomas of the Cowboys returns the ensuing onside kick for a touchdown, giving the Cowboys their first win since October 6th. Now, Washington is on a 3-game losing streak, and a lot of people are calling into question, did we get duped? Did we get duped by a team that was blasting their way through a very light schedule, and now they're going to be facing a difficult stretch as they're going to see these Saints aren't a difficult stretch, but Falcons, Eagles, and then the Cowboys again, not particularly hard, but one of the harder stretches of their upcoming schedule and for the remaining stretch of the year. I think that this is extremely reminiscent of what happened with the Texans last year, where the Texans looked really good, and we're starting to see now that they're being challenged more, that they're not living up to those true expectations, that it is not just an immediate jump to success for a young quarterback to immediately be a true MVP candidate and be one of the best in the league. It's a growing process, a game-over-game process that takes steps of gradual improvement. And right now we're seeing what that truest form of when Jayden Daniels isn't fully healthy. Does this offense work as well as it can? And how does he need to progress and improve as a passer? And better yet, how does Cliff Kingsbury need to better set up his young quarterback? Yeah, here's the thing. Daniels, not to draw back to the Shedeur Sanders boat picture thing, but the Commanders are a stupid team over the last 24 years. I'll go back to 2000. They have been stupid, and they do stupid things like letting Cavante Turpin hit the nastiest spin move before a big-time kickoff return. It's like drafting a long snapper, cutting him after 3 years, and having long snapper give you 2 low snaps in a game versus your biggest rival. Who's the Commanders' long snapper
currently?
Yeah,
I got no clue. That would be an insane pull if I was able to nab it. But he put that one right down in the dirt. They were lucky to even get the point up to have a shot at the extra point going through. It was a tragedy. The onside kick getting returned for a touchdown.
Tyler Ott, he is the former Seahawks long snapper.
Gotcha. Is Tyler Ott any good?
I've met Tyler Ott before. He was a long-time quality starting long snapper. He's a former Harvard football player. He's a former tight end.
So he's a dickhead.
Okay.
Good to know. All right. But Jayden Daniels has already elevated this team to a level of national respectability. That's a win. That's a huge win for rookie year. I wouldn't need anything more, but I'm greedy and I want to see what they can do. And unfortunately, his talent has now put him into a category of necessity scheming. And that means he can throw the deep ball so well, we're not going to allow it. And he has had so many pass attempts at or just beyond the line of scrimmage in the last 2 games. They're not stretching the field like they need to. They need to find a way to move the ball downfield on deep shots and intermediate shots. Just checking down to Eckler and Ertz all day. I know they're giving you the nickel and dime. I know they want you to do that. That's what defenses want you to do, Jayden. Throw a perfect pass down the sideline. I know you could do it. You need to do it. And Cliff Kingsbury needs to scheme you some stuff to let you do that, because that's how you beat defenses, especially defenses like Dallas that get beat over the top every single game. It was a little bit inept coaching on the offensive side in this one for Washington. They need to stay confident in Daniels and let him go out there and gunsling a little bit. They got way too conservative with him the last couple weeks.
Well, I am always in the constant theme that I preach to the impatient NFL fan like you, that we need to be patient just generally with these young quarterbacks. I feel like we're already seeing the overreaction pendulum swing from the people that wanted to hate on Jayden Daniels and wanted to hate on the Commanders to say, oh, well, look what's happening now. Reality's setting in. Well, another example that we have of us needing to wait to see for the cake to fully bake is what Bryce Young did in the Carolina Panthers' close loss to the Kansas City Chiefs, 30-27. Bryce Young had one of the best games of his career. He led a game-tying drive in the fourth quarter, but left a little bit too much time. So we always know there's always too much time for Patrick Mahomes, the only team that has done that correctly. And preventing him from having any ounce of a second was what the Bills did last week. But he finishes in this game 21 of 35, 263 yards and 2 touchdowns. That stat line doesn't seem super crazy impressive, but it was one of these games where when you saw the highlights, and there's a lot of film breakdowns being thrown out there this week on Twitter of him hitting these pinpoint shots. We're seeing the version of Bryce Young where he's able to find and connect with players in these tight windows to play as this Steph Curry point guard style quarterback where he's just distributing and dishing the ball to his playmakers to set them up to succeed. Bryce Young, I firmly believe, has been slowly improving since he was benched. And why I thought that it was just dumb in general to have benched him, because he needs to keep playing. He's on a horrible team. Let him play. Let him work through his issues. And now we're starting to see what issues he can work through to continue to progress towards being a quality starting quarterback, if not better than that in the NFL. Don't spend your first-round draft pick on another quarterback in a class that has a lot of uncertainty. It does not seem like you're going to be picking in the top 5. Do not draft Garrett Nussmeier. Do not draft Carson Beck. Do not draft Jackson Dart. Draft Luther Burden. Draft Tyrell McMillan. Draft Colston Loveland. Draft Tyler Warren. Do something to get weapons for a quarterback who desperately needs them.
Yeah, the Twitter All-22 film sniping from his performance has been good. It's been really solid. I'm not going to back down on any hill, nor should anybody, to think that he was playing good football in the first half of the season before benching. He needed to get benched. And I think him getting benched really opened some things up for him, maybe took some of the pressure off. It's all right, I've already been benched. It's not like I'm playing to not get benched again. I'm out here playing football now, and it looks like it. The way he's working in the pocket looks like it. He didn't have a ton of time versus Kansas City. They got a great pass rush. He doesn't have a fantastic offensive line. He was making good decisions quickly and putting the ball where it needed to be. There were some throws in this game that looked like Alabama Bryce Young throws, where you're in the pocket, he sees him, he's not staring him down, but he sees his receiver and then puts it exactly where he wants to put it. And that is huge. Are there still concerns about the size? There always will be. Are there still concerns about, all right, they lost, they're not really winning yet? Yeah, there's going to be that until further notice, but it was a very good step for him versus a Chiefs team. I don't think they were sleepwalking. I don't think they were dogging it. I
just felt like they were caught off guard. I felt like they weren't expecting to go up against a team that was going to show any signs of life.
They weren't ready for a fight. And you know what? The Panthers are one of these teams, these freak teams that just decides, all right, if you are going to come in here sleeping, this is the NFL. We're going to remind you of it. We have incentives on the line. We want to hit our yardage marks. We want to hit our playing time incentives. And that's what they did. It was a huge game for Bryce Young. It really was. I know it's 2 touchdowns and 263, but it just brought you back to why he won the Heisman a couple times. You're watching it, and it's really, really impressive stuff. Now, if he could put it together consistently, I don't know. That's the next big question for him.
As a 49ers hater, it made me very happy to see the way that they played against the Packers. Now, I understand that they're banged up. They lost 38-10. The Packers defense continues to look more and more stout on a week-to-week basis. Jeff Hafley has now back-to-back games where they have not allowed more than 20 points. There is a lot of criticism being dished towards the 49ers and questioning if they have any shot of being a playoff contender, considering they're still in range of winning the NFC West. But I feel like this team is lost its life. It has lost the spark, the juice that we were used to seeing because it's so banged up. They played this game without Brock Purdy, Trent Williams, and Nick Bosa. They're without Brandon Ayuk for the rest of the season. What's crazy is that you've got Ricky Pearsall, who was drafted in the first round when they had other needs, not even providing any contribution in this game. The 49ers feel like that they need maybe not a reset, but we've gotten to this spot where you had all of these great athletes and all of these premier players coming in. You paid all of them, and none of them are playing up to expectation or, frankly, are even available. What do you even do with this team? Because I don't see a young nucleus to really bank on and think this is going to get them back right. This is going to help them get back on track if they return to, their degree of prominence, if they can just get so-and-so the football, or if they can get Brock Purdy back. I don't think that. I don't think that's the case, and I think that this team is slowly starting to show signs of regression after reaching their peak last year, which was getting to the Super Bowl.
There's a real shot this team doesn't make the playoffs, which would be
let's be a little bit more
massive disappointment.
They're not, but let's be more direct about this. They're probably not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
not that there's a real shot. They're probably not going to. It's unlikely that they make the playoffs.
They are 5-6. They've lost 3 in the division, 1 to each team. They've split with Seattle. They still have to face the Bills. They got the Bears, which for how they're playing is going to be a hard out. The Rams, that's always hard for them. Miami's heating up, so they got to play them. The Lions and then the Cardinals closing it out with another divisional game. How many are winnable there? 2, 3? If we're being realistic about this team, they've dropped some bad games. It's not a team that is playing well.
And they're getting smoked, too. Like, this is not one of those teams that's really good and scrappy and just can't finish a game because they're a little banged up. No, they're getting whooped. 38-10. That's the final score.
I'm not reveling in them being bad, but it's kind of been like 49ers fans have been like sneaky annoying about this team the last couple years, where they've been good. They've always been complaining, and now they're not good. And it's like they're still acting like they have a shot. Like, figure out what you want to be and what you want to complain about. Because right now the team isn't great, and they should be winning this division. The NFC West is not some gauntlet this year. It was a division up for the taking. It still is, but I have more faith that Los Angeles turns it around, or Seattle or Arizona. Not these guys. These guys can't move the football. Even if Purdy comes back next week from his shoulder injury, I don't have faith that he's going to be able to move that ball, score 21 points and a half. He hasn't shown it to me. This offense isn't good. The defense should be better. They got stars. They have star defensive players, and they're not doing well. And I maybe we could just attribute that to turnover of DCs, and you got your head coach. Okay, cool. Shanahan's been fine. He's been solid, but they keep on turning guys over. You lose Saleh, you lose DeMeco Ryans. You keep on going new system. Maybe it's too much turnover for them. They keep on doing too well to maintain, possibly, at least from that standpoint. Even though they keep on retaining players. It's not Kyle Shanahan's fault that Deebo Samuel got all fat this year and changed his number and lost all his aura. Deebo shouldn't be wearing 1. He should go back to 19.
He's too fat to be wearing 1.
Yeah, you have to have. If you're going to be fat, you have to go double numbers. You cannot be.
Give him 100.
You can't be fat. Hey, Josh Jacobs, that goes for you too. I like that you got a big round 8 on your jersey, but you need 2 numbers. I can't have you out there single digits, just toting that thing in a single digit number.
All right, folks, that's going to be it from us on today's show. Thanksgiving week this week, so we're going to try and drop our best bets show on Tuesday. So stay tuned for that. We'll be back with more. Enjoy your holiday.